All right. So, here's the seminar for this week. Um, because you're on a flexible day. So, anyway, so you can see this on Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Anyway, so we have module 4, módulo número 4, seminario número 17. Mi cumpleaños. Para empezar, empareja las preguntas con las respuestas. So, if someone says to you, ¿Cómo te llamas? Which would be your answer on the right-hand side. So I'll give you just a couple seconds. You can pause the video. You're going to say, ¿Cómo te llamas? And the response is going to be, Me llamo. And then you put your name. Remember, it's not me llamo S. Someone says to you, ¿Cómo estás? Right here. We've done this a ton. Pause the video, and you hopefully came up with this one. Someone says, ¿De dónde eres? Remember, the de is a key word from or of ¿Dónde eres? And then you say, Yo soy de, and then you say your place, like Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania in español. All right. So, anyways, so as we continue, that's just kind of a beginning because we're still in an introductory type of mode. La fecha de hoy. Hoy es el 27 de enero. We're still in enero, way in the top here. Top. And hoy es martes 27 de enero 2026. Right? Okay, ¿cómo estás hoy? You should respond to that. ¿Qué tiempo hace hoy? Probably you might say hace frío right there. Um, it's you might, oops, sorry. You might say también está nevando or nieva. It's possible, hace viento. It's possible to say hace sol, right? But these two contradict each other right here. Anyway, just keep in mind how we talk about el tiempo. In this case, tiempo does not mean time, it means weather. It's an expression. Okay, ¿qué planes tienes para hoy? So this thing here is simply just an opportunity to say, oops, sorry, to say, what am I going to do today? Voy a cuidar a un animal or something, right? Um, Voy a descansar. Maybe you have a snow day today. Voy a cocinar. Possible, right? There's a stovetop with something super whatever. Voy a quedarme en casa. So we could practice some of our vocabulary here. That would be fabulous. Anyways, this is a opportunity to check some of these things out. Notice how they all start with voy, voy, voy. Voy a tocar un instrumento. Voy a salir de casa. Voy a trabajar. Voy a pasar tiempo con familia. Voy a leer, and so on. So this week, this is the agenda, objetivo, tarea. Large numbers, months, days of the week, basic info questions. Puedo compartir cuántos años tengo y cuándo es mi cumpleaños. We have actually done this a ton. But anyway, earlier we did that. So take note of los meses, which are over here a la derecha, right there, right? And then we're going to apply that information to there. So you would take a moment to respond in español. So for example, los meses en español, we're currently in enero. And you might say, oh yeah, enero is this, like that, right? The rest actually look very similar from English to Spanish. Um, so that is to say, I mean, learn it for sure, but like the next one upcoming, el mes. So notice the mes right here. Singular is el mes, plural is los meses. Anyway, we're going to use the next one, which is going to look like this, febrero, which is a whole lot easier to say in Espanol versus English. A lot of people in English don't like that R in the middle, and they say February, right? February. So in Espanol, it's easier. Febrero. It's just an R and a U is a little harder sometimes. Anyway, so keep that in mind as we're continuing practice. So there they are, los meses. Enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre, diciembre. take note of your vowel sounds. Like August there's no U in August, it's agosto. Same in October, it's got the O sound, octubre, right? Versus May is not mayo, it's mayo, right? April is another A sound. It's not um it's not it's not April, right? It's abril. So that R in there as well gives that sound, makes it more authentic. So the next thing, excuse me, to consider is basic numbers here. Uno y tres. So the word plus in Espanol is represented with the word and. Uno y tres son. So then we're going to say are, and then we give a number, right? So then we say uno y tres son cuatro. Notice it's cuatro, not cuarto. Cuarto means quarter after. It also means like a room, like a bedroom or something. If we have this symbol here, then that is represented in Espanol with the word menos. But we use son, are, and all these for the sum, right? Like that. Okay, so I do believe you know these, so I'm going to just jump ahead. So then we can continue and notice that here they're their own word until number 15. Once, doce, trece, catorce, quince. Then you get to dis 16, 10 and 6. So you can certainly say, this is how we get this, diez y seis. But when we spell it together, notice how it's spelled down there. So the Z and the Y sort of had the same sound. So they take that and they put that into the letter I. And the Z turns into a C when it's kind of plural. So diez, diez, y, that's the and. And then because of the way the word is pronounced, there's going to be an accent over a letter, which is going to be the strong vowels and E. Not all of these are needing an accent. Like that in this case, you only see that one. Don't worry too much about accents. Nevertheless, that's why it's there. It's like 17 doesn't need it because iete, the E is in the right spot to take the emphasis of the word. When you get to numero 20, veinte over here, it's its own word, and kind of like 11 is its own word, for example. So it's pronounced vein, like this would be the big veinte, veinte, right? So the V is a B sound. So sitting by the dock of the bay kind of sound. All right, moving forward. So we have words here. So we're going to say, for example, 21, what would that be? 22, 23. Notice how 23, 22 has an accent. Anyway, so notice how the 20s um, are smashed together words as well. So again, we don't spell 22. We take the E and the Y together and it becomes an I sound. So it becomes 22 as one word. That's how that works. Here's the 30s, and the 30, there's the word treinta. So treinta is, so when we do the 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So in Espanol, notice how all of these have the enta. There's my little underliner. So enta, it looks a little bit different in the 30, right? Here's an enta, here's an enta, here's an enta, all of this. So these are our tens units, right? Until we get to 100. So if it's 30, then it stands by itself. So it's, let's say it's 30 and 1. So then you would say treinta, treinta, so it's pronounced train ta, for example, y, and then we say 1, uno, 31. It's three separate words now. So let's just use that and say, well, what about 33? So then you'd say treinta y tres, and so on, right? So these are just some random numbers. So then four, so think of this, right? Three, como se dice three in español? Trace. Then you add an enta, so that you have to work with the spelling, right? So it's gotta work in Espanol, pronunciation wise. So they're gonna add sometimes extra letters and so on and so forth. So they're gonna adjust a little bit, and they do this with treinta. So think of four, cuatro, so renta, right? 40, 40. So think of five, cinco plus enta, so take off the O, cincuenta. So a C and a U is a K sound. Look at how the spelling is in 60. Seis, enta. So you take off the I to make the spelling and the pronunciation work. 70 is normally seven is normally siete plus an enta, setenta. So again, there's a slight spelling change, especially in that one. Ocho plus enta, ochenta. Again, you're smashing it together a little bit. 990 has this definitely big spelling change. It's not nueve, so they take the U and the E and they make it an O. So nov enta. And then 100 by itself is simply cien. If 100 is next to another number like 110 or 171, whatever, then cien turns to ciento. So cien can look like ciento, but only with another number, like plus, I don't know, 10, right? So then it is ciento diez, right? And so on. So we'll talk about the hundreds stuff in a second. So the answers here, take a moment, consider what you would say based on what I just said. Pause the video. Here's your answers. 56, 67, 72, 85, 93, like that. All right, those are our answers in this situation. So practice saying those out loud, pause the video. All right, so, ¿cuándo es tu cumpleaños? ¿Por qué why? ¿Cuándo when? ¿Cuándo means when, right? So, this person says, bueno, mi cumpleaños es el 8 de diciembre. Ocho. This person says, mi cumpleaños es el 15 de abril. It's not 15, it's cinco, cinco, cinco. That's its own word, quince. Notice how it's 15 of April. It's not April 15, it's 15 of April. And lowercase for months. That's a thing in español. So, ¿cuándo es tu cumpleaños? So you might say, mi cumpleaños es el 9 de mayo. That's not true for me, right? I'm going to say something else. I'm going to say, oh, for my real life, right? No, no, no. Mi cumpleaños no es el 9 de mayo. Or again, it's mayo, not mayo. So I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say, mi cumpleaños es el 11 de noviembre. Like that, right? Yours is yours. Okay, like this one, right? So just other examples. You can spell it out. Remember, the 20s are spelled out as one long word as opposed to three words and so on. Okay. So, ¿cuándo son sus cumpleaños? So this could be, this is plural on the left-hand side, right? So when are their birthdays? So notice the word cumpleaños looks like it's singular, but it also looks plural. It's both. There are a few words like the word umbrella, paraguas, and cumpleaños is another example. It can be singular, it can be plural. In this case. But how do we know we're talking plural? Because cuando son sus, son as opposed to s. So the singular is s when is versus when are. So son means are. And then su is his or her, but sus is their in this case, right? So tú necesitas hablar con una persona en la clase. Y vamos a hacer una conversación, right? So we can do this, but so you can have a little conversation with a friend. That's what we would probably do if we're in class together. Nevertheless, let's check this out. So this would be an example. ¿Cuándo es el cumpleaños de tu mamá? Or la mamá de so-and-so. So you would say, oh, so again, we're gonna change our year, 2026. Anyway, so let's say it's el 4 de febrero. So notice you have your numero here, right? And then you have your mes right there. So you can practice with Pepe. You could practice with Angel, right? Remember that Angel is a male name. If you land on this one, numero uno, instead of saying uno, we say primero. Es el primero. So let's say this is yo, just for the sake of the argument, right? So this is yo. So then you'd say, mi cumpleaños es el primero de febrero. Like that. So if one more thing to say, one is the birthday of the mother. So you could say it is the 4th, es el 4 de febrero, but you can also say her birthday. So como se dice her is su. So you can shortcut the word the birthday of the mother of Angel is or whatever. You could say his or her birthday. So su cumpleaños es el 4 de febrero. And you would say Sue, who's Sue referring to? Oh, la mamá de Ángel, or whoever's mother she is. Or mi amigo, su cumpleaños, Pepe, el cumpleaños de mi amigo, que se llama Pepe, es el 13 de febrero, or Ángel, 26 de febrero as well. So you're going to just keep practicing, right? And so on. And then we've got a short little video, Cuando es blank cumpleaños. So then you're going to talk about, or you're going to listen, use the minute and second marker. So this is one of your work assignments this week, is write at least one birthday you're able to figure out or guess from the listening video above. Include the minute and second marker. Here it is.
You're watching Coffee Break Spanish. Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Coffee Break Spanish to Go. Today's question is, when is your birthday, or more formally, when is your birthday? I repeat, when is your birthday? Or more formally, when is your birthday? Very well, now let's hear people's answers. My birthday is October 23rd and mine is August 5th.
July 28th.
My birthday is October 29th.
Okay, hang on a second. I think something's happening. This is all in AI. So let's get out of here. I don't want it to be AI. I want it to be just normal. I'm not sure why it's telling you in English. Interesting that it just jumped over to um, an AI and a translation.
1957, the year I was born. Very interesting. Now let's look at these answers in more detail.
My birthday is October 23rd and mine is August 5th.
July 28th.
So again, notice that, again, I wish they were speaking in Spanish here. I don't know why they're not. El 28 de julio. This is not their obvious, these are obviously not their normal voices. So then, like, okay, let's see what I just want to see what they say for the year or this. Well, they're not going to do it in Spanish, unfortunately. Okay. So hopefully you're gonna see that in that assignment. I hope it's not. I'm gonna look at that in a second. So in el chat box, mi cumpleaños es el blank, 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 right? And then you can connect it to la estación. La estación, como we are currently in el invierno, we're gonna move in about a month into la primavera, a month and a half. El verano, we don't have school then. El otoño, right? So we have our estación. So let's jump over really quickly to our work for this week. So each person's age and name and anything else you understand. Let's just make sure this really works for you.
So, what else could you get for $39.95 a month? Only 30.
Okay.
Bueno, mi nombre es Alejandro, tengo 21 años, vivo en Cartago.
Me llamo César Augusto Cheteimax, ese es mi nombre. Tengo 48 años de edad.
Mi nombre es Ingrid, tengo 20 años, soy de Costa Rica, vivo en Cercero.
Sí, mi nombre es José Eduardo Torres, tengo 81 años de edad.
Me llamo Eric, vivo en San José, Costa Rica y tengo 12 años.
Mi nombre es Darwin Antonio Cañas Reyes, tengo 19 años de edad.
Me llamo Leslie Magdalí López Pérez, tengo 13 años.
Hola, me llamo María José, tengo 22 años, vivo en Querétaro, México.
Bueno, mi nombre es Cristian Acosta, tengo 25 años.
Mi nombre es José Enrique Benítez Rodríguez, tengo 28 años.
Me llamo Marta Martínez Toribio, tengo 24 años y vivo en Salamanca, España.
Okay, great. So that one did the right thing. All right, so that's what we want right there. Okay, so then your job is going to be to go back to this and if you can't see that way, you can click on that link. Hopefully it works for you. But again, you can go back to this video and backtrack if you need to. Anyways, so you're going to do this. This is part of your elaborate section. And then just to backtrack a little bit more on your assignments for this week, under evaluate is our little quiz area. And in there, you're taking a short little quiz on age and so on, or all these things based on this topic. And then there's this little infographic. So take a moment to do some of that as well. So one last thing to talk about is going to be, so for example, I just want to touch base on one last thing. Let me see if I can make this a, hang on, let me go here. And I want to go to a whiteboard. Okay, so last but not least, let me just cover this because this is part of this unit that I think is useful. So if you say 100 and so, people live into their hundreds sometimes, right? Not super common, but it happens. So 100, 100 is 100, right? But if it's 107, then it becomes 107. Right? And so in English, we say 107. We have the and. In Espanol, you don't need to say the word and. So let's say it's 136, right? So then you'd say 136. So the and unit, right? The and is connected to the ones unit, right? So here's my ones unit, for example. Here's my tens unit. Here's my hundreds unit. So you can also use numbers, right? Not saying people live to the 200 benchmark, which is anyway, but when you get to 200, 300, etc., then you have these get to be smashed together. So that's like 200, 217. So 217 is 200, and then we say 17. So we can spell it out like that. So then we go on 300, 400. So let's just label those really fast. So right? Tres cientos, 400. Cuatro, so it's cientos, like that. 500 has a crazy word. So it's not cinco cientos, it's quinientos. So it's pronounced like that. Quinientos. Like that, right? 600, seis cientos. They can get smashed together. 700 is a different number. So think of 70. It's not siete, it's sete. So setecientos. 800 is pretty normal. Ochocientos, notice it's smashed together. 900, again, think of nove or noventa and so on. So 900 is not nueve cientos, it's nove cientos. And then when you get to 1,000, it's mil, just by itself. You don't have to say un mil, you simply say mil. So it's short, crisp sound. If you have 2,000, now you have, oops, sorry. Now you have two words, dos mil. You don't have to say dos miles. So let's say you were born. This is when were you born? Cuando, when, naciste. Were you born? Past tense. So you might say, oh, I was born in the 2000s, right? So yo nací. So I was born. And then we say in, en, and then we say our year. So in Spanish, we have to say 2000, you say the full word, like you don't say 2020, right? You don't say 20, 2000, well, you would say 2004, because we don't say 2004, right? Anyways, but sometimes you do say 2020. So typically you're going to say, let's say you're born in 2016, right? So instead of saying 2016, you say dos mil dieciséis. If somebody was born in the 1900s, your parents, your grandparents, whatever. So let's say they're born in 1960, right? So then you're going to have to say 1960. So it's 1960. You cannot say 1960. You have to do this the long way. This is a different thing in Spanish or French or Italian than we do in English. So again, you can't do the shortcut 1960. You do 1960. And let's say they were born in 1962. Then you would add 62. So Columbus crosses the ocean blue in 1492, right? We know that little saying, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, so then you say, ooh, what is that? 1492. So that's 1492. So take a moment before you hear me, but listen to my answer in a second, but pause. So you'd say 1400, right? 490, 92. So that's how we do our years. Again, it's easier with the 2000s because they're smaller numbers, right? But anyway, this is the approach. So then you get to a million, millón, a billion, billón, and so on. So that's how we do this. All right, so I just wanted to cover that because what I'd like you to know how to do is say and respond, talk to each other about this. Cuando naciste? Yo nací 2 de abril, 2004, or whatever year you were born, you know, like that. So that's a thing to talk to each other about. Okay, that's the end of our topic today. Please make sure you're reviewing your work. And I look forward to seeing all of the things that you are doing this week. Let me know if you have any questions. I will not see you Wednesday, because I know that you are on a whole different schedule. Okay, gracias.